Good morning, everyone. Or where I guess it could be afternoon or evening by you, depending on where you are. Okay, we are going to jump right back into helping you understand why you signed up for this crazy experience that hopefully will be the most life-changing thing you do this year, because it's really profound, these 3-day water fasts. So before I jump into everything, I saw on our Resetter Collaborative on Facebook, and a couple of you have been DMing on Instagram, that many of you are at different points of the fast already. So could you put in the chat what day you're on, just so I kind of get an idea of what we're looking at? So let you all do that. Day 1, day 2. Okay. Amazing. This is speed reading at its best. Okay, day 1, day 2. Okay. Awesome. Some of you, great. Some of you are like rounding that corner on day 2. Okay, perfect. So, remember how yesterday I talked about knowledge is your fuel at this moment. And one of the things I noticed in the over 25 years I was in practice is that one of the reasons that chronic disease builds in the body is because we become numb to our body. There's like a disconnect. A lot of people are walking around not feeling that connection to their body, so they don't know when something's gone awry. So when we look at this 3-day water fast, we have this really cool moment in time where you are reconnecting to your body. And in that experience, let's get to understand how your body wants to be taken care of. And if there was one health habit that I would say would cure all the chronic disease, would help so many people with mood disorders, that would balance out menopausal symptoms, it is your metabolic health. So what I want to do today is really explain what metabolic health is and how it ties into all of our hormones. Now, before the men jump off, I got you. We're going to talk about female hormones today. We're going to talk about male hormones. Even though men are a little more simple when it comes to hormones, there's still a lifestyle to build that will help make sure that your hormones stay balanced through all the years as you age. So I want to start off by really helping you all understand how hormones work. I then want to go into what metabolic health is. Then we're going to go into metabolic switching, which I wrote a whole chapter on that. I highly, highly recommend that if you don't have the book, grab the book, listen to the audio, but however it works. I really, like I said yesterday, want to keep you focused on this process. And we live in an ADD world. We live in a world where it's easy to get pulled away. So, but when you're in a fasted state, here, this is really cool. If you really are like, I got a lot going on the next couple of days, I want you to think about this. So when we go into a fasted state, there is so much neurochemically changing, not only in our body, but in our brain. So for example, fasting increases a protein. It's actually like a steroid called BDNF. BDNF is brain-derived neurotropic factor, and it is like Miracle Grow for your brain. And so when you are in this fasted state, I like to call them baby neurons. You have all these like baby neurons in your brain that are wanting to grab on to new information. So it actually is a really unique time to learn new information and have it stick. Because what I've noticed in just teaching health to so many people for so many years is that you'll probably only grab, as sad as it is, you'll probably only grab about 10% of what I teach when you're not in a fasted state. But when we neurochemically change your brain. We have BDNF going. We have these baby neurons. We're increasing new neuronal connections in your brain. And we're upregulating GABA because as you go deeper into the fast, as ketones go up, you start to stimulate more GABA that calms you. And the thoughts many of you are going to see as you round day 2 and go into day 3, specifically day 3, that the thoughts are really calm. There is a really unique moment where you can own this information. And that's why I love the experience of fasting, because I can say one thing to you, then you can experience it. Then we can prep your brain so that it's able to hold that information and have it stick. And that makes you own this stuff, because this is not mine to own. This is not mine to lead forever for you. This is yours to understand. And then as you move around your lifestyle, you're like, oh, that's not good for my hormones. Oh, that's not good for metabolic health. So that's what today is about, is really starting the conversation on metabolic health, how it ties into hormones. I know there's a lot of questions about, like, what should I eat in my fasting window? Should I take my supplements? I'm going to go through all of that today. So stick with me. I want to take you through a process. And this, by the way, the beginning of what I'm going to take you through today and tomorrow, I did this on like a whiteboard when at a menopause retreat in Ibiza in September. And it was profound how quickly women owned the information. We then reproduced it last weekend in Miami. I did an event for 100 women and did the same thing again, walked them through a process to help them grab the information for good. And then for those of you that are coming to the I Can Do It event in Phoenix in March, I'm doing a 1-day live event where I will be helping you customize what I'm teaching you today for your life. So I'm sure there'll be people who can put in links for that event, but I'm doing a 1-day full event talking about this information, but really having you have an experience with it. We're calling it the Fast Like a Girl experience, so that you can own it and customize it for you. And that's something that I think is really, really important that we understand, that there are some general principles when it comes to metabolic health and hormonal health that applies to everyone. And then once you understand those principles, now your job becomes personalizing it to you. As opposed to what we've been doing in the diet culture forever is we watch a friend lose weight, we watch somebody get a result, and we're like, I'm going to do that. And then we try it. It doesn't work for us. And then we think something's wrong with us. The time has officially come for personalized medicine and personalized lifestyle. I do not want you falling prey to doing what your bestie's doing or doing the fad diet you see on Instagram. I want you to understand your health and how to build a lifestyle that has you loving the body you're in, has you preventing disease, and is effortless for you. Because when you customize it to you, it becomes effortless. When you try to do what somebody else is doing, that's when it becomes very difficult. So that's my focus today. I did see a lot of people putting in their symptoms. Somebody said they're starving. I get it. You can feel free, like if you're feeling a symptom, put it in there, get it off your mind, release it into the world. And I will come back and address some of these symptoms towards the end. But day 2, if you're on day 2, starving is definitely a possibility. I'm going to talk about fasted snacks today too, and we'll go through that. But sometimes it's just like, you got to get it off your chest. Yeah. And if you feel great, own it. Yeah. Awesome. So beautiful. Put it in there. Like, just get it off the mind, get it onto the chat. So it doesn't stay up there and turn into an OCD situation. So, okay, here's how we look at hormones. In the book, I talk about something called the hormonal hierarchy. So think of hormones as they have like a tag team effect, where one hormone tags the next hormone, tags the next hormone. So they work like a team. One of the challenges we've had in our current healthcare system, doesn't matter where you live, is that we've sort of got this understanding that we're just a bunch of parts. And like, so if, we have gut health, we got to fix the gut. If we got a cardiovascular problem, we got to fix our heart and lungs. If we've got a brain problem, we've got to fix the brain. But the body doesn't really work like that. It's like a team that comes together and works in your favor. And so, for example, there's a gut-brain connection. And this one really fascinated me because I dealt with gut health so much in my clinic. And we would try everything to help people with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, with candida, people who had chronic diarrhea, chronic constipation, you name the gut problem, we dealt with it in my clinic. And one thing that shocked me was that in some of the cases, I needed to go to the brain and help heal the brain. I'm not talking about your mindset. I'm talking about like getting the right amino acids and making sure they're eating the right fats and getting ketones to the brain. And when I went to the brain, the gut resolved itself because there was a gut-brain interaction. So everything I'm teaching you is a holistic approach to the body. We want to get out of the parts approach. And those of you trying to lose weight, I'm going to dive into why the body stores fat, because it's not always because you were undisciplined. So many times it's not because you're undisciplined. It's because your brilliant body did the right thing at the right time and stored fat in an area to save your life. So with that in mind, here's a key concept called the hormonal hierarchy, which is at the bottom of the hormone hierarchy lives our sex hormones. For women, it's estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Those hormones for women are secreted from what they call the thecal cells around the ovaries. So your brain, your hypothalamus and pituitary communicates with your ovaries, and there is this feedback loop where the two are talking to each other and they're orchestrating which hormones are going to go in and out at what time of the month when you had a cycle. For my postmenopausal women, that hormonal shift, when you stopped, your ovaries went into retirement, your brain took the instructions that it needs to give for hormonal secretion. It, instead of giving it to the ovaries, it handed it over to the adrenal glands, which is why stress is no good for the perimenopause and menopausal woman. And I'll explain more of that in a moment, because your adrenals are now having to make these sex hormones. For men, my men, you make testosterone. That is the number one hormone that you make. And testosterone goes up into the brain and converts into estrogen and a little tiny bit of progesterone. But testosterone is the number one hormone that drives you. Fasting does really well with testosterone. So for a man, and I should have said this yesterday, if you are doing this if you're in a heterosexual relationship and you're a woman doing this with your hubby or a partner, please understand men are going to drop weight a lot quicker in this experience than women, because testosterone when you fast is like, thank you. And men will just start to drop weight super fast. So men, testosterone is their primary hormone. The conversion happens in the brain. Women, we've got to have our ovaries in tip-top shape, our brain in tip-top shape. And then postmenopausal women, now we've got to really work on our stress, because it is the adrenal glands that are making those hormones. Now, above these sex hormones lives insulin. This is why I am so obsessed with fasting. Because if we are going to balance these sex hormones, whether it's in a man, and men, you do go through andropause. That is absolutely becoming a thing, where a man's testosterone goes down in his 40s and into his 50s. Men, you also can get a lot of synthetic estrogen. You know you're storing estrogen and it's not going out of your system when you start to get what they would, what the culture calls the man boobs or the belly, that's all estrogen. And we're going to talk over the coming days for both men and women how to move estrogen out of your system. That's not today's topic. But if a man wants to balance his testosterone, wants to really help mobilize the synthetic estrogen that's being stored in his chest and his belly, he's got to make sure that he's insulin sensitive. If a woman is cycling and she wants to try to get pregnant, or she wants to overturn PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, where testosterone's really high, or she wants to get rid of PMDD, which is that time before your cycle where all of a sudden you have so many symptoms and you're super moody, or the perimenopausal woman who's hemorrhaging when she bleeds, you're going to need to become insulin sensitive. Or even the postmenopausal woman who couldn't get rid of the menopausal belly weight, or is still got hot flashes 10 years after going into menopause. Your number one goal is insulin sensitivity. Before you even go on a supplement, before you pray that HRT or bioidenticals is going to help you, we've got to get insulin sensitive. And I've spoke about this yesterday, that there are two ways that you know if you're insulin sensitive. One is a number on your blood sugar, on your blood test. So a lot of you have blood tests from your doctor. Go pull them up and look at the measurement hemoglobin A1C. You are insulin sensitive if that is a 5 or under. So your doctor should be running that on you every year. If not, something really beautiful, you can start to run these tests on yourself. It's a really cool thing that's happened in the world, is that we can all run, lab work on ourselves. It's just that we can't always interpret it. So hemoglobin A1C needs to be under 5. So yes, somebody just put it. Thank you. If you know your hemoglobin A1C, put it in there. This is great. Thank you. This is really, really helpful. So somebody said they have a 6.9. Oh, you guys know, this is so cool. Somebody's got, yeah, perfect. Okay, beautiful. You guys are the best. Ooh, 4.6. That person's aging very slow. This is amazing. Amazing. Okay. This is where this information literally saves your life. Because when your hemoglobin A1C is over 5, what that means is that insulin is not able to take the glucose that's in your system and put that glucose into your cells. So what it does is it stores it in other parts of your body. And the first place it's going to store it is in fat. So something I want you all to do over the next couple of days is, when you look at yourself in the mirror and you criticize yourself for the parts of your body that have too much adipose tissue, I want you to change that thought process. And I want you to look at the extra adipose tissue and thank it. Because your body did exactly what it was supposed to do. There was an increase of extra glucose. The insulin system was overwhelmed. It couldn't get that glucose into the cell to activate it for energy and to use it for cellular healing. So it stored it in fat. So that the first place is not to store it in the liver. The first place is not to store it around the heart and lungs. The first place it's going to go is the safest place for you, which is back of the arms, belly fat, glutes, around the neck and the face. That's where it's storing it. So if you have a hemoglobin A1C that's above 5, your goal for this moment and beyond, and we'll talk through the next couple of days. I've got you. Once you come out of this experience, we have other experiences you can jump into so that you don't lose your way. But what we want to do is get that number under 5, and hemoglobin A1C is a 90-day measurement of what your glucose and insulin system is doing. How well is insulin able to get glucose into your cell? And how, if it's not able to do that, then it is storing it as fat. And if you want to lose weight, you want to change that hemoglobin A1C. That is your goal, and it's telling you what that system is doing for 90 days. Now, the other way, and a way that I really, really recommend that you look at glucose, is with a blood sugar reader. So there are a lot of different ways you can go with a blood sugar reader. It's really up to you. The least expensive way is to, the least expensive way is symptoms. And I'll talk about that when I go through metabolic switching. But it's just a little handheld. You can get them at your local drugstore. You can get them online. I like Keto Mojo. Most of you, I talked about that yesterday. It can get sent to you where you would prick your finger and you would put a little drop of blood on a strip, and it'll give you both a sugar reading and a ketone reading. And I'm going to talk about what those readings mean throughout today. So that's one way. Another way, and the way that I love, and when I first start working with patients, this is what I do, is to put a continuous glucose monitor on. And it's a really cool experience. They come in like a little container like this. And basically, I was going to put mine on before today's call, but I didn't get the chance. You basically take inside here, there is a mechanism with a sensor in it. And you pretty much, looks like this. You pretty much click the sensor into this and you just push it into the back of your arm. It does not hurt. And then there's an app that will start to give you glucose readings. This is definitely more expensive, but the first time I learned about this, I was like, oh my God, I think we could change every obesity problem on the planet. We could change every metabolic problem on the planet if people understood what food did to them. So if you choose to go into one of these, what I recommend is you put one on, and it's not too late. You don't have to do it for this fast. You can put one on in a week and then eat everything you normally eat and look at the glucose response. I did this recently with an actress that I've been working with who is a vegan. And I'm all about everybody do the diet that feels right to you outside of the Western horrible diet, standard American diet, or it's now the Western standard diet. But if you're vegan, beautiful. Let's just make sure you're getting enough protein, and make sure you're staying metabolically healthy. If you're an omnivore, great. Let's just make sure you're eating clean protein and you're getting a variety of it. So there's a whole set of rules around that. So just know that just because she was vegan, I wasn't like, you got to eat meat. But what I did do is I started to change the combination of her meals, because what was happening is in her vegan diet, on her glucose monitor, I could see these spikes going up and down, 5, 6, 7 of them a day. And each time the spike goes up, the insulin and glucose system has to kick in, and your pancreas secretes insulin. It has to drive that into the cells. If you call on the insulin system too much, we call that insulin resistance. And a great way to think about insulin resistance is those of you that have kids, how effective, put it in the chat, how effective is it when you tell your child over and over and over and over and over again, it even works for a spouse, to do something, the more you tell them, does it get more, do they actually do it, or do they become deaf? I used to say, we're in a 2-story house, and I used to say I'd leave this pile of clothes to be carried upstairs for my kids to carry upstairs. And I would say, hey, there's a pile of clothes on the bottom of the stairs. Could you carry that up? Could you carry that up? Could you carry that up? And they would never carry it up. And so one day I decided, I went over and I whispered it to them. I changed my strategy. I'm like, hey, guess what? There's a pile at the bottom of the stairs that you should probably take upstairs. And they were like, why are you whispering at me? And it was like a change. And all of a sudden they heard me and they carried it upstairs because I changed my approach. That's what we're doing when we are looking at this insulin system and we're going longer periods of time without food. We're whispering to the pancreas, we're whispering to the cells, and we're saying, hey, guess what? We're going to pause all that glucose coming in. So now you can relax, pancreas. Now, cells that are tired of all the insulin and glucose coming at them, you can relax for a moment. I'm going to give you a pause so you can clean yourself up. That's what we're doing here when we fast. But you have to understand that if you are insulin sensitive, then those hormones, the estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, are going to be way out of balance. So let's get you insulin sensitive again. Let's get you under hemoglobin, get your hemoglobin A1C under. Let's get you understanding what food does with this CGM if you choose to go that way. Now, if you don't have the resources to get these fancy equipment, what I would encourage you to do is understand symptoms. So one of the ways you know that you are heading towards insulin resistance, I talked about it yesterday, is your inability to go without food, where you start to realize 2 hours go by and you're like, I'm hangry. By the way, I was this person. I carried snacks with me everywhere. I had bars in my purse and bars in my backpack and, all kinds of little hacks to get my glucose up, because I could not go longer than 2 hours without food before I learned this information. I was metabolically inflexible, and that was in my early 40s. And that was when my perimenopausal years started, and that took me down. So if you're trying to balance your sex hormones, understand we've got to get you insulin sensitive, but we've got to get your body being able to go without food for a certain period of time. We got to prime that metabolic system. So can you go without hunger? Now, here's what you're going to learn throughout the next 3 days. Those of you that are starving, I want you to pay real close attention to this, because you're going to be like, I'm starving. I hate this. Why did I sign up for this? Am I going to die? I'm starving so much. Okay. When you're starving, I want you to ask yourself, am I actually starving or am I bored? Do I miss food? So many of you are and those of you, especially on day 2, you are going to start to see that you're actually not starving, you're bored. You're going to see that actually you're not that hungry. You actually are needing a dopamine hit of food. And that's okay. We'll talk about how, I'm going to give you a really beautiful story that last year, that is one of my favorite. And tomorrow I'll show you the pre and post pictures of this man. I had a man come to me 2 years ago. He was a part of a mentorship group that I've been working in, and he was 300 pounds. And he came to me and he said, I need your help. And my first reaction to him is, where do you feel like your weight loss challenges lie? And he said, I'm food addicted. Okay, I heard that he was food addicted. So my brain was, we're not going to start with food. I'm not going to change his food. I went on to ask him, tell me, what exactly are you addicted to? And he's like, I'm drinking 12 sodas a day. By the way, his hemoglobin A1C was like way up in the 6s and 7s. So he's like, I'm drinking 12 soda a day. Now, any doctor, any nutritionist would say, the most logical thing for me to say to him was, get off your sodas and your hemoglobin A1C is going to come down and you're going to lose weight. But he said he's food addicted. I didn't want to set him up for failure again. So I then asked him a second question, which is something I want you to think about for yourself. I asked him, why? Why do you want to lose weight? When we don't have a clear why on a health habit, we will fail at it. So right now, I want you all to think about what your why is for doing this. Lock onto it. I will give you an example for myself right now. I'm really working on building muscle. I'm in the gym with a trainer, and it is hard as heck. Like I go in and I'm like, I don't like this. And so in those moments, and I'm not a person that says can't very much, but I have many times in my workout told my trainer, I can't do it. It's too heavy. But then I think about my why. And my why for building muscle actually exists around looking at my mom, my 84-year-old mom, actually both my parents, and seeing that, gosh, when you're in your 80s, muscle really helps. It is functionality. And so I go to that place of what do I want to be like in my 80s? I want to have muscle so that I can have the most optimal functionality possible. And then all of a sudden I get this superhuman strength. So if you haven't zoned in on your why during this, please zone in on it. So when I asked this man, his name is Todd, what his why was, he said, I have to stay alive for my family. Okay. That man opened up my heart in that moment in the biggest way. We have to understand that poor metabolic health shortens our life. It leads us to chronic disease. It is massively important we clean this up. And not only so you love living in your body, but so that you stay alive for the people that you love, because your health isn't just about you. It affects everybody in your life. So let's get you metabolically healthy. So what I did with Todd is we started taking his eating window and we started compressing it. The first month I told him, eat whatever you want and just put it into a 10-hour eating window. So I had to train him. I just said, push your breakfast back. I didn't change his food at all. And then when that gets comfortable, push it back again, and then push it back again. The first month with drinking 12 sodas a day and condensing all his horrible food into a 10-hour eating window, he lost somewhere around 14 pounds. All he did is change when he ate. He didn't change what he ate. Second month, I condensed that down to 6 hours. And I told him to just drink his sodas outside of his house. Second month, he lost another 13 pounds. Third month, we kept him in this condensed eating window, and I had him just add protein in. And by the third month, his taste buds were changing and his food preferences were changing. He wasn't craving the soda as much. Anyways, we went and did this for over a year. Within a year, he was off of soda. He was making great food choices, and he was down 175 pounds. And he wasn't doing Ozempic. He wasn't doing all the weight loss drugs that come with side effects. He literally healed his body by the door in, was changing when he ate. He was hangry. Don't get me wrong. In the beginning, he was hangry, but he was motivated to stay alive for his family. And I took him in a different door to his health. I didn't go at this food addiction door. So when we are looking at this hemoglobin A1C system, we have to realize that that chronic desire for food is a metabolic imbalance. So you can, by building a fasting lifestyle, you're making one of the biggest steps forward today, this week, doing this 3-day water fast. But then let's keep working on this fasting lifestyle in the coming months. And I promise you, you will change your metabolic system and that hemoglobin A1C will come down. So that's insulin. Above insulin is cortisol. Okay, cortisol is stress. And so when we live in a world where everybody's like, stress is killing us, here's why it's killing us. Because when you are in a stressed, chronically stressed state, it's like this hose of cortisol has been turned on and it's pouring into your cells. And when cortisol is pouring into your cells, your body thinks it's being chased by a tiger. So for men, well, for both men and women, our top priority for our body is survival. So if cortisol is pouring into your system, your body's like, I don't want to burn fat. I don't need to make these cells insulin sensitive because I got to get the heck away from the tiger that's about to kill me, because survival is the most important agenda on my body plate. So for women, that's for men. You just have to think about keeping cortisol low to make yourself insulin sensitive, to balance your hormones, because that's how your body works. For a woman, we've got the number one thing is survival, and the number two thing is reproduce. Those are the top priorities of a female body until she goes through menopause, which is why you hear us a lot of times say postmenopausal women can fast a little longer. They can vary their fast a little less because there's no reproduction to consider. But if you have a cycle, you're still ovulating, you've got to get cortisol in balance so you can get insulin in balance. So if you are a cycling woman or a perimenopausal woman, you need to watch stress quite a bit so that you can get the result you're wanting to get. So those of you that walk out of this and you're like, I didn't lose as much weight as I wanted to, I want you to think about your stress levels. And this is not the call for all the stress levels conversation. I'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow, because stress isn't as easy to diagnose as I've got too much on my plate today. Sometimes when a great book that I love is The Body Keeps the Score. Sometimes the body has trauma stuck in it that's raising your cortisol, which is causing you to be insulin resistant. So that's another time. Okay, above cortisol is oxytocin. This is why I want to continue to build community. This is why I want you all to gather and come live to the I Can Do It experience in the end of March, so we can see each other, we can connect, we can hug, and we can all get oxytocin together. One of the things that we have been really trying to do with our online world, and as our world has grown, is find ways to create oxytocin. So for this week, one of the things you can do to create oxytocin is you can join our Resetter Collaborative. It's on Facebook. It's a free group. We just hit 100,000 people yesterday. A lot of you already joined. There's a lot of great experienced fasters in there. I've got some of my team members in there helping, and you can get cheered on, and you could go in there and you could say, oh my God, I'm struggling, I'm starving, it's day 40. And you've got 100,000 people that are going to chime in and be like, you got this, you can do it. And now you're receiving oxytocin from that communal support. And the people that are cheering the other people on, they're getting oxytocin, because we get oxytocin when we smile at somebody. We get oxytocin when we say something nice to somebody. So go into the Resetter Collaborative and start cheering people on, and you're getting oxytocin. And when oxytocin comes up, now all of a sudden insulin or cortisol comes down. When cortisol comes down, this experience this week becomes much easier because you're much more insulin sensitive. And when you're much more insulin sensitive, now those sex hormones will absolutely balance out for the good. So community support, connection, other things you can do if you're hungry during the next couple of days is pet your dog or your cat. Ask for more hugs. When I first learned this, my kids were teenagers. You better believe I was teaching, especially my teenage son at the time, he's now 21. I would say, I just need a hug because I'm trying to balance my hormones. You would be shocked. You could be on day 40 of this fast and be like, I hate this. Go hug somebody. Go pet your dog. Go call your best friend and tell them how much they mean to you. You're getting oxytocin, and all of a sudden it gets easier. That's how profound this hormonal hierarchy is. So we've got, if you want to balance your hormones, if you want to balance your metabolic system, you've got to keep that hierarchy in perspective. You can't muscle your way into better metabolic health, because cortisol's there. If you're too stressed, it shuts the whole system down. So again, I talk about this a ton in the book. So That's the hormonal hierarchy. Okay, with that in mind, how do we balance the metabolic system? So, like I mentioned yesterday, like I mentioned in the book, we have two metabolisms. You have probably not been told you have two metabolisms. When you say I have my metabolism slow, what you're actually saying is you're saying I'm struggling to metabolically switch. I can't tell you how many women specifically came into my office over and over and over again. And they're like, I need you to help me with my thyroid because I think my metabolism is slow. What I translated that into is I need to help you become metabolically flexible so your thyroid can work the way it's meant to work. Because, by the way, at the bottom of the hierarchy is not just sex hormones, but it's those thyroid hormones. It's all the hormones. So here's how it works. When you eat, your blood sugar goes up. And then it will peak and then it will start to dip down. Clinically, what the industry medical standard is it says if you eat a meal, you want to be at the pre-meal glucose within 2 hours of eating that meal. I think we should aim for better. I think within an hour, half an hour to an hour, I want to see that blood sugar come down. So how you can make sure that when the blood sugar comes down, that it comes down quickly is with every meal you eat, you are pairing a protein, a good fat, and fiber. Those three things need to be in every single meal that you eat. If you do that, your blood sugar spike will not be as high and your glucose, so if it's a little less, it'll come down much quicker. This is great because when you're wanting to get over to the fasting window, it makes it so much easier. And I'll explain this in a minute. So now put in the chat, how many of us, I've fallen prey to this, we crave carbs and we're like, I just like last night, I'm going to give an example. I was like, I want some pizza. I do mine gluten-free. And I was like, I don't know why I want pizza. Why do I want pizza? So I do it healthy, but I ordered pizza. Now, I put protein on it. I powered it up with protein. I put arugula on it so it had some fiber, and then I drizzled it with olive oil so it had some good fat. That's how I made sure it didn't create this huge glucose spike. It was less of a glucose spike so that I can start to fast more efficiently today. I didn't want to do a high carb meal the night before a big fast and then find out that I'm just hangry all day. So that's how we clean this system up. And we're going to be talking a lot more. If you guys haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go subscribe to my YouTube channel because I'm actually starting a whole cooking show on my YouTube to show exactly how we cook and we eat for this sugar burner system so we can just get this thing nailed. Now, what's happening to the person who's eating the Western diet? You drive in to fast food, you are eating fries and a burger with a bun, you've got the wrong oils. Even though there's some protein and fat in there, you have this really big glucose spike. Takes a couple of hours, maybe 3 hours for it to come down. And in that big glucose spike, your poor little body is like, oh, there's a rush of glucose right now. There's a rush of glucose. I don't know what to do with this. We're going to store it somewhere. So it stored it in fat. We talked about that. It stored it in your liver. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is really on the rise right now. And then it stored it in muscle. So it just kept storing and storing and storing and storing because the sugar burner system wasn't right. So now what we are doing this week is we are not eating anything. And so we are forcing, I say that in a loving way, we are forcing your body to switch over into the fat burning system. It takes typically somewhere between 8 to 12 hours for your body to switch over into this system, which is why in Fast Like a Girl, I talk about the first fast, that when you're in the fat burner system, usually it's somewhere between 12 and 15, 16 hours, you're safely over here. Now, once you're over here, your brilliant body, remember, it's designed to survive. And so once you're over there, your brilliant body goes, whoa, it's been 10 hours. It's been 12 hours. This glucose system is not coming up. So I think I stored some extra glucose for this moment. I'm going to go burn that. And it starts to burn the extra fat around all your body parts, all the places you hate. It starts to burn the extra glucose in your liver and in your muscles. And the byproduct of that is called a ketone. And the ketone goes up into your brain and it kills hunger. The longer you stay over here, like I said yesterday, the more fat gets burned. So this is why so many of you are going to lose weight this week and it's going to stay off. When we calorie restrict, we do not release fat. We start to make the fat cells smaller so it feels like you're thinner. But then once you go back to food, those fat cells plump back up. This is why calorie restriction doesn't work. This is why in Fast Like a Girl, it was one of the first principles I wanted to debunk. Calorie counting is a recipe for insanity when it comes to your health. When you're over here in this fasting window, your brilliant body is figuring out how to burn fat so that fat never comes back. And what it does in that process is it makes this brilliant thing called a ketone. And the ketone goes up to a part of your brain that controls hunger. There is a hunger hormone called ghrelin, and it goes up and turns off the hunger hormone. It says, hey, ghrelin, you need to stop squawking and talking because I need this human to not be hungry so that it has mental focus and motivation to go find food. So the hunger hormone goes off. Ketones also stimulate GABA. So you're calmer. It stimulates BDNF, like I said in the beginning. And so you're focused so that you will go find food. That's what that system was there for back in the primal days before we had pantries and refrigerators and DoorDash, is it was there to motivate you to go find food. Now, the longer you stay there, think about this from the body's perspective. It's like, okay, all the weak links need to go away now. So if I have a cell that's not working well, you're out. This is autophagy. This is what apoptosis, like weak cells. I don't need to be carrying you around right now because it's 40 hours in and I need this person to go find food for its survival. So it gets rid of the weak links. It also is like, okay, body, up the burning of the fat, burn more, burn more, burn more. I need more ketones. I need to release weight because we didn't have cars back then. I need this human body to move so that it can go and find food. When you tap into this mechanism that kept you alive or your ancestors alive in the primal days, what you're doing right now is you're using this system that still exists in your body today to undo what happened to you when you didn't get the memo about how to take care of the sugar burner system. It's like if I could get every person on the planet to understand this. So this is a healing state where your body is working for your advantage to keep you alive. It's cleaning up the weak links. It's burning fat. It's giving you resources for your brain. And it's doing that so you'll go find food. So keep that in mind when you are hungry. Remember that the body is really trying to make sure that it switches into a deep ketosis where the hunger stops. And I will tell you, after doing this with so many people, most people, by the time they get to the third day, they're like, I'm not hungry. I miss food. I'm not hungry. In fact, I saw somebody post this on my socials yesterday. It was a man, and he was in the second day of a fast, and he's like, I feel insane. Yeah, because you just became in 2 days an extreme elite athlete who your body's like, okay, I brought inflammation down, I'm burning fat, I got rid of the weak links, move the body to go find food so that you can go and get food. That's the magic of this state. Now, what can we do in this state over the next couple of days to be able to amplify it? What do we do when certain things show up, symptoms show up? What can we drink? We talked about that yesterday. What can we eat? Is there anything we can do in this state so that we don't switch back? So here's what you need to know. What causes you to switch back is a sense of blood sugar going up. Now, some of you are going to notice that, and this was one of the things I noticed when I first started fasting, is I was like 40 hours into a fast, and I looked down at my glucose monitor, and my blood sugar was going down into like the 50s, the late 50s, and all of a sudden it was like, boop, it popped up to 75 or 80, and I hadn't eaten anything in 40 hours. Now that can be stored sugar where the liver is like, whoa, it's been a while. We're going to go ahead and release some sugar out of the system. So, because your body still needs glucose to be high. So, glucose, it needs to be up. It's not like it totally abandons the glucose system over here. It's leaning more into the ketogenic energy system. So, the name of the game is don't raise your blood sugar. So, okay, what raises your blood sugar? Well, sometimes, some of the things you put in like your coffee. This is why I did not say cream. This is why I didn't oat milks and almond milks, no cream in your coffee. For some of you, black coffee is going to work. For some of you, black coffee spikes your blood sugar. So if you do not know if it does that or not, one way you know is drink a cup of coffee if you choose to do that over the next couple of days, and see if you get hungry an hour later. If you're hungry an hour later, it probably spiked your blood sugar, or look at it on your meter if you have one. Drinks. This is why I don't like stevia and I don't like NutraSweet. Anything with those two things in it, what they do is they spike insulin, and the increase in insulin can pull you back into the sugar burner state. So you're best off not doing any stevia or what was it? Oh my God, menopausal moment, or NutraSweet. So now I see a lot of you put Element T has stevia in it. Now, the magic of that product is it's an outlier. It was created specifically for fasters. Because it has minerals in it, it tends to counteract the increase in insulin and glucose. But as somebody put in there, Element T breaks their fast. You're going to have to test it on your blood sugar. So this is where there's a lot of nuance, and we'll continue to talk about that in the coming days. But if you have a blood sugar reader, test it. Put Element in water, drink it, see if it spikes blood sugar. So there's that. Now, supplements and medications. I would prefer you don't do your supplements, and let me tell you why. When you're 40 hours into a fast, what you have now said to your body is, you got this. You know better than me. There's an intelligence inside me that knows a lot more than I know. So I'm just going to sit back and let you work your magic. When we put a nutrient in, what happens is the cell senses that increase in the nutrient, and it may decide that to slow down the process of autophagy. Autophagy is where the cell is getting rid of the bad and it's really rebuilding the cell stronger. So an autophagy is triggered with a decrease in glucose, and it's triggered with a decrease in nutrients. And so let's not bring any nutrients in, with the exception of minerals, because you need minerals to be able, it's one of those key components that helps you metabolically switch. So that's why I recommend B minerals. That's why I recommend Element, because it'll help make the fast a little easier. For most of you, it's not going to pull you out of a fast, but we already talked about that with Element. For many of you, it's going to be the thing that just allows you to go longer into this fasted state. So we don't want a lot of nutrient sensing going on within the cell, with the exception of minerals. Now, medications are a different issue. Again, one of the things that I love about what we've created in this community is we have so many doctors in here. In fact, if you are a doctor, you work with a doctor, put it in the chat. My YouTube channel was built off of the healthcare profession. So many people sent their doctors sent their patients to my YouTube to learn these principles, because like I mentioned yesterday, doctors do not have the time to teach lifestyle. So, but medication, you need to take it the way your doctor told you to take it. So don't go off your medication. If you have to take it with food, that leads me to the fasted snack. Now, what I'm going to say about the fasted snack is really got a lot of nuance to it. The research that I saw was that a fasted snack, which is a pure fat bomb. So this would be like a scoop of MCT oil, a scoop of flaxseed oil. The best version of this fat bomb that I know of is something called a keto cup. I don't have anything to do with the company that makes the keto cup. It's just, they made a perfect fat bomb that does not pull you out of a fasted state. A pure fat bomb makes it so you stay over here. It doesn't elevate your blood sugar, so you do not switch back. So those of you that have a blood sugar reader, those of you who are like, I'm not sure I can make it 3 days, like you've really hit that limit, you could, if you wanted to, lean into a keto cup if you can find those online. I'll let you in on a little preview. We do have a cookbook that will be coming out in November, and I have a chef creating fat bomb recipes that we can have in our fasting window, because that, if there's one thing we need, it's that. So I have a celebrity chef, actually a really talented woman who's creating those. So that's to come. So you could go into a keto cup. You could go into an avocado. If you're like, I don't even know where I'm going to get a keto cup, you could try an avocado, just a small amount. You could try a scoop of MCT oil in some tea. You could try some flaxseed oil, some kind of oil. You will be amazed how that can stop the hunger, and it will keep you in this fasted state. A lot of you are asking about nut butters. The problem with the nut butter is that they have protein in it, so it will pull you out of autophagy. So it's not that great for the fasting window, unless you're like dying. I'd rather you go and do an avocado, do some oil, do a keto cup, even doing nut butter. I'd rather you try a scoop of that than completely abandon the fast. So some of you that are like, I was only going to go 48 hours. I wasn't going to go 3 days. I had a lot of people ask me if they could do that. When you get to that 40-hour, if you're like, I think I might be able to do this, but I am really hungry, try a keto cup and see if you can go another 72 hours or go to 72 hours. Now, when I first started doing this with my patients, I never put somebody in a 3-day water fast without a meter so I could see their glucose. And one time I had a woman whose glucose went really low. It was down in the 40s, and she was dizzy and she was fatigued. And so what I did is I had her eat a half of avocado And we also did a cup of bone broth. And the reason I did that, now I knew it would pull her out of autophagy, but I was trying to prime her metabolic switch. Our goal was making sure that we bring hemoglobin A1C down. So I knew if I could get her in a longer fast, we would clean this situation up. I wasn't looking necessarily to stimulate autophagy, so the extra protein wasn't bothersome to me. And sure enough, she had just a little bit. That's the trick. You got to have just a little bit. And she was able to go another 24 hours. So some of you, that might be your go-to. Now, if you're wanting stem cell production, if you're wanting to get into this autophagy state where the cells are cleaning themselves up, if you're looking at this as a detox, then you got to do it the way the science was done. And that was without these snacks. You're going to keep going all the way to the 72 hours. But if you hit a point where you're like, I don't know if I can do it anymore, try a fasted snack. And again, that's a keto cup, that's an avocado, that can be nut butter, but you'll pull yourself out of autophagy, and that could be a cup of bone broth. I know some of you that are vegan are going to ask me about vegetable broth. I don't know, because some of those vegetable broths are a little bit higher in sugar and will pull you out. Again, for the cookbook, we're creating a mushroom broth for my plant-based friends. So, but try that first and then see if you could go longer. That might be a really helpful tool. So that's the fasted snack. And that's how I want you to look and approach this metabolic switch. So supplements, I think we handled that. Medications, drinks, we talked about that yesterday. That's your mineral water. That is your teas. A lot of you are asking me about teas. Yes, that's your teas. Just make sure they're herbal, no sweeteners in it. Some of you might choose to do coffee. I just want this, think of this, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for you to really understand this switch so that you are able to nail this so that you are metabolically healthy. Now, last thing, because I can see I'm running out of time. And we have 2 more days. We have Wednesday, Thursday, and those of you in the VIP, we have Friday together where I will be answering your questions. So those of you who want to ask your question directly to me can upgrade to the VIP if you're not there, because that will go down on Friday. So let's talk about blood sugar numbers and where the danger spots are. I think this is really important. And I'm going to give the US numbers, so those of you in the rest of part of the world can work on some translation. Just Google these numbers and translate it for European, Australia. I mean, I think we're the only crazy ones that use this system. So good blood sugar in a fasted state should be between 70 and 90 milligrams per deciliter. That's a healthy fasting glucose. When you go into these longer fasts, you're going to see it go down under 70. If it goes into the 50s and you feel great, I'm not concerned. If it goes into the 50s and you are incredibly fatigued, like your limbs are heavy, you feel like you're going to pass out, the room is spinning, you're super dizzy, you need to go into a fasted snack and see if that stabilizes your blood sugar. If it continues to go down under 50 or stays in the 50s, you feel horrible, you need to break the fast. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about how do you officially break a fast really well, but I want you to know that's the warning sign. Now, I have seen people have it go all the way down into the 30s and they feel amazing. I watch, those are people I've been personally coaching. I watch very, very closely. So it's not like you're going to die in the 50s, but I'm giving you the cautious statistic. But if you ever at any point, you're so fatigued, you cannot lift your limbs, that is a time for a fasted snack or to break your fast. Second number, those of you that have ketone readers, if your ketone, and this is all numbers. So ketones are measured in millimoles, which is everywhere in the world. So if your ketones get above 7.0, you need to break the fast. because you're moving towards ketoacidosis, which is not a healthy state. When you go into ketosis over here, I'm having you go into nutritional ketosis. It is a safe place to live. When your ketones get up into like 9 and 10, you are now in ketoacidosis. That is not a safe place to live. So dosage matters. Most of you, from what I've seen with all the people we fasted, most of you will get into the ketones of around 5. That's amazing. Some of you will be 2s. That's fine. But if it gets above 7, break the fast. Please be safe. If you don't have a ketone reader, again, and you don't know what your blood sugar is, if you are dizzy all the time, like you can't stand up, or you are fatigued, or your limbs are really heavy, break the fast or try a fasted snack. Yeah, see, this is perfect. Somebody just put in 71. They're at 71 glucose, 1.1 ketones. My guess is that you're feeling great. Those are great numbers. And we'll talk even more about those numbers tomorrow. But 1.1 is my sweet spot for ketones. I love when I'm there, I'm like, look out, I can take over the world. Because 1.0 is phenomenal. Yeah, look, okay, so 2 point, that like, yeah, look, awesome. Some of you guys know 87 1.0. Okay, the one that somebody put 50 and 3.8. I don't know where you are on your fast, but let's just keep an eye that you're also 67 glucose, 3.6 ketones. That's awesome. You're also probably feeling amazing, but let's just make sure it doesn't go down into the 50s. 58, 3.8. That also, yeah, you guys are looking good. Those of you that are at, you, by the way, you know you're over here in ketosis when you get to 0.5. 0.5 and over, you've now switched over. So somebody put they're at 95 glucose 0.3, it's coming. And one of the things that I tell myself when I'm fasting all the time is I go, the ketones are coming. When I get hungry, I'm like, the ketones are coming. They're coming. And when they show up, they're going to kill hunger. So it's like an affirmation that I make. So, okay. So I just want to give you that. Let me know if this was helpful to understand this metabolic switch. I want to keep helping you understand why we do what we're doing, and why this is a healing state. I want to continue to remind you that the goal is not to be in this fasted state over and over and over and over again. The goal is to prime the metabolic switch. And so, but for this week, we are really getting to know this system, this fat burning ketogenic energy system. And then I'll be talking at the end of the week, how do we reintroduce food? How do we go back into this sugar burner system and keep the results that we're getting this week? But for right now, this is what we're getting to know. And this is the healing state you're putting yourself in. And one last thing I want to say on that is that there are a lot of myths out there about fasting. So over the next couple of days, if you see things that people are like, oh, I don't really think that these longer fasts are as important anymore. I don't think so. The health world has got ADD. They're always switching to lots of different topics. Protein, like I mentioned, is like the hero of today. But this is like sleep. This is like exercise. You go to sleep you actually, when you sleep, detox your brain and repair your body. When you exercise, you are upregulating all kinds of neurochemicals that actually repair your brain, whether you knew that or not. And when you're fasting, you are burning the fat and the excess that was stored years ago, and you're priming your metabolic system. It is a healing state. And this is why we dip in and out. And for women, we do it according to our cycle, which is what Fast Like a Girl was all about. Make sense? Does that kind of keep you attached to what you're doing? It's a whole new system, and you're rocking it over the next couple of days. And the results you're getting this week are going to stick. I promise you, because you just cleaned up a system, just like somebody who's trying to clean up their sleep, somebody who's going back on an exercise program. That's all you're doing. You're cleaning up this healing state. So with that, come join us in the Resetter Collaborative. If you need more support, I'm watching, just so you know, I'm watching people's comments. It's really exciting to see everything that you guys are doing. Those of you that are feeling really good, please lean in and support the people that are struggling. We can get through this together. This is why I love this idea of 100,000 of us doing this week. One day we're going to make it 1 million people fasting in a week so that we can start to clean up the metabolic health of the world, because it's in a really bad place. And this is a free tool everyone can use. So know that I'm cheering you on. I'm watching you. And I have no doubt that your body knows what it's doing, even when your mind is freaking out. Your body has got this. Deal? Okay. Love you all. Keep up the good work. And I'll be back tomorrow with more information to keep you pointed in the right direction. Otherwise, I'll see you in the Resetter Collaborative, or I'm looking at the messages on Instagram and Facebook, reading those. So if you're doing it, post it, put it up there, let the world know what we're doing, because this is the door out of the poor metabolic health that so many people find themselves in. Okay, hugs.